The border between Turkey and Greece is a hotspot for illegal migration into the European Union. But this Turkish border guard is not looking towards Greece. He's keeping his eye on his own territory, on watch for illegals trying to leave Turkey. Turkey is a major transit country for migrants from Africa, Asia and the Middle East. Since the EU deployed the External Border Protection Agency, Frontex, on the Greek side, the Turkish army stepped up its efforts too.
We got 1,400 illegal immigrants has detected just the beginning of the 2010 so far.
But increasing numbers are reaching the Greek side. According to Frontex, 33,000 since June. The border is full of holes for well-organized human trafficking networks.
Piyade Rahmet Saat, kule gözetlecisiyim. Yeni kule mevkinde 3 şahıs gördüm. Kuzey istikametine ilerliyorlar.
European diplomats are interpreting the fact that Euronews was allowed to film this sensitive border section as a possible sign of change, that Turkey is ready to cooperate with the EU on illegal migration. EU politicians have repeatedly blamed Turkey for failing to intercept illegals on this frontier. But the border guards disagree, saying they are in full control, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
We are trying to figure out where they come from, where is the source that they are coming from, and which path they are following through the border, military forbidden zone, and when will exactly be in 5 or 10 minutes.
Turkish army and police caught 10,000 illegal migrants and 300 traffickers in the Edirne region since the beginning of this year. Turkey changed the law recently. Now traffickers risk up to 12 years in prison. The night's catch by the Ipsala patrol is handed over to the police in Edirne. Frontex on the Greek side of the border intercepts 150 to 250 illegal migrants a day. Both countries have a readmission agreement, but Greece complains that Turkey doesn't implement it. A senior Turkish police officer disagrees.
This readmission agreement works well because we just took back 52 people from Greece today.
After harsh criticism on living conditions in detention centres, politicians in Ankara decided to close one of them down and to start rebuilding bigger ones jointly financed by the EU. Today's detention centre in Edirne can hold 100 inmates. The new one can take up to 7 times more. The delegation of the European Union to Turkey is the biggest EU representation in the world. The European Union supports Turkey in harmonising its border management with EU standards. And the Lisbon Treaty gives the EU a bigger say in foreign policy. The European External Action Service gives more freedom to the head of the EU delegation in Ankara.
One example of the joint action that the EU can have is illegal immigration and visa policy. The EU and Turkey are facing a joint challenge: illegal immigration and international traffickers.
Both countries, both Poland and Turkey, are becoming the target countries for the migrants.
So what we're doing here is a discussion between an agreement about illegal migrants, which we call readmission agreement, and a roadmap, a way to ease up visa requirements over a period of time and under certain conditions.
Poland, it's worth saying that we experienced the same thing, the same procedures. At some point, we had to sign the readmission agreement to be handed over illegal migrants who reach other countries. And of course, it wasn't easy, but we did it, and finally we realized that it was not something that we should have been hesitating for so long.
Back on the Turkish-Greek river frontier, the external border of the European Union can be deadly.
If it is floating, most of the times it is. We got some cases in previous years. Some immigrants, illegal immigrants, has drowned on the water.
Turkey is among the few countries to have maintained the geographical limitations of the Geneva Conventions, which in practice means that it's not granting permanent refugee status, except for people originating from Europe. A few days ago, a group of 10 illegal migrants from Asia were held.
The men were approaching the military zone at the border by walking through the canals. They were wearing life jackets and their clothes were wet. They approached the river. They were frightened. They walked 2 or 3 meters, stopped, looked around if they were going to be detected, moved on a bit, stopped, hesitated about the direction, moved on, and they all had wet clothes, wearing life jackets.
According to the UN High Commission for Refugees, at least 44 migrants have drowned since January. The UNHCR says the river, known as Evros in Greece or Meric in Turkey, is the centre of a humanitarian crisis. Migrants trying to get legal status queue at the UNHCR office in Ankara. The United Nations High Commission says any kind of global readmission agreement between the EU and Turkey must not lead to a chain of deportations to countries that leave refugees at risk.
Turkey should not be given a role of policeman of EU. In Turkey, the protection space should be improved, enlarged. People who need real protection should be provided.
The Turkish Foreign Ministry wants a deal. It says if Turkey takes back illegal migrants from the European Union, then Turkish citizens should benefit from a full visa liberalisation, not just a partial one, as suggested by the EU.
If we are going to sign the readmission agreement, we are going to have a big burden. Very simple. I mean, if our burden is not met with easy travel, then it's not fair again.
Katerina is a German student. Before leaving for Turkey on an Erasmus exchange, she got her travel papers almost instantly. Oytun is Turkish. He said getting a visa for his exchange in the UK was a nightmare.
It's really difficult to get a visa for a Turkish student because it's so expensive and it's so time-consuming. For example, it took 2 weeks for me to get the visa, but I know from my friends that they wait for about a month to get it, and
really?
It's so expensive.
Oh, I just went to the consulate, and within 1.5 hours I could obtain my visa and go home.
1.5 hours?
Yes.
Yeah, you're so lucky.
Yeah, I know. And also it's not really difficult.
The Turkish government, the UN and other observers agree that the EU should take in more refugees stranded in Turkey. Some believe there should be a quota system introduced so rich EU countries take in more refugees than poorer ones.
The recommendation to solve this issue will be, first of all, to make sure that there will be a redistributive system within the EU itself. The current system is not a democratic system in terms of the redistribution of the asylum seekers and refugees.
While the European External Action Service and the Turkish government negotiate the future migration and visa deal, Erasmus students can have a good time in Ankara. They believe full visa freedom for Turkish citizens would help this kind of gathering much easier to organise.